Hello, my name's Rob Sherratt. I'm here on the Lionstracs stand at MusikMesse in Frankfurt, and I'm here to share with you some information about the evolution of the Lionstracs workstations and our latest products. Helmut is just going to demonstrate some of the playing functionality of the workstation, and then we're going to see the unique feature of QRanger. Over to you, Helmut. And Helmut is now going to show us how that music was made up. And if we look up here on the screen, we have the internal sequencer, which comes as standard on all of the Lionstracs products. This sequencer is called QRanger, and what is unique about it is that it features both MIDI and real audio, and it is able to transpose the MIDI and the real audio in real time. Helmut will now demonstrate the drum track, which is a real audio. So we're soloing the drums. That's a real audio recording. That one, of course, doesn't transpose. Now he's going to demonstrate the guitar, which is also a real guitar track. So he's soloing the guitar. And then he's going to go back and play the guitar track, and you can hear it transposing in real time. Okay, thank you, Helmut. So what we're doing at the show, we're launching a new product, which is all the functionality that you've just heard playing in the Groove workstation, and we're launching it in a new synthesizer rack, which is over here, which is called the Groove XR. So just to explain, the Groove XR is a workstation in a rack. It is a plug-in player that can play virtually any plugins that are commercially available. We ship it with one standard plugin, which is the Sonic Project's OpX2, and that's included in the price, but the user can transfer their own plugin licenses from PCs or Macs and plug them into this box, and it's a real-time player that you can transport with you to the gigs. But in addition, what it has is the ability to generate arpeggiated modulation tracks, which can modulate any of your plugins using QRanger. And QRanger can generate control information, it can generate arpeggiated tracks, or it can generate full styles. And we will be shipping with the style mapping of QRanger. So we have intros mapped to the controller. We have fill-ins. We have the variations, 8 variations, 8 fill-ins, 8 starts, and 8 endings. Also in the rack is 2 gigabytes of samples for running with Linux Sampler, which we ship as standard. And also in the rack is the ability to play back MIDI files, MP3 files, and a number of other formats like the karaoke files. We have a karaoke player. The key thing is that our samples, the Linux sampler, streams direct from hard disk, and we load all the samples dynamically as they're needed, and the delay to load new samples is a few milliseconds, unlike other systems that take several minutes. With the OpX2 plugin, each plugin instance has 12 notes of polyphony, but what we can do is to run 16 copies of that at the same time on the Lionstracs Groove XR system, and each of those copies has its own virtual desktop, and we can set a different patch on each of them. So you can layer 16 patches together, each of which have 12 notes of synthesizer polyphony. This screen that we're showing, in fact, has OpX Pro patches mapped to the patch manager in Lionstracs. The user can just add those patches themselves to whichever screens they want. So you've got the ability to display 12 patches per screen, but you can have as many screens as you want, and then you're a single click away from changing the patch. So what I'd just like to show you is that the synthesizer has full editing capability for use offline in the studio to prepare all your music, but everything can be played and operated from its front panel when you're playing live. So here we have a patch selection front panel showing beat modulation patch selected, and we go on to select some different patches. We see the patch selection screen coming up, and now the grand piano. Grand piano patch selected, warm grand. The Groove XR functionality is just another MIDI peripheral. We connect it via MIDI over USB, and all of the controller functionality in the front panel is connected into the internal software through this single link, and it has its own microprocessor and everything else. Domenico has also taken the Groove functionality, and there is a special version for Bluthner pianos where their new electric grand is featuring Domenico's synthesizer internally with Bluthner's piano patches. So inside the Groove XR we have a standard motherboard, but everything else is proprietary, developed by Domenico. The audio board, the DSP processing, the front panel, the VGA interfaces and so on. And this is shipping as standard with a 1 terabyte hard disk. And of course it's a low power processor so that it doesn't run hot. We can see here the rear panel of the Groove XR. You have 4 audio outs. You have 4 different pedal inputs there. You have conventional MIDI. You have a total of 7 USB connections. And my final demonstration is to show you a USB controller being plugged in dynamically and coming on live. So here I have an Akai MPD32 controller. You can see it's not plugged in. And we will just go to the patch manager, which manages the MIDI plugins. So we switched over to the patch manager. We go to the Ulcer tab, and Domenico will plug this in, and it just plug it into the front panel. We have a MIDI port on the front to make it easier to plug in USB sticks. And we now see on the patch panel
here the Akai is automatically.
So the Akai MPD32 has been automatically recognized. We've unplugged it, plug it back in. That is automatic. The user doesn't have to do anything. We go back to our synthesizer, go back to the OpX 2, and here so the external controller is now live. So the gap in the market is that we have a number of workstation customers who've bought the full keyboard workstations, who are gigging musicians with small bands who want something that's portable to use with existing MIDI keyboards, existing controllers, and they wanted all the functionality in a small box. So we developed the small box, the Groove XR, and it's also cost reduced. The workstations are about 4,000 euros, the rack product is about 2,000 euros. So it's a cost-reduced solution for small bands, maybe 2 or 3 people bands, where the keyboard player will have the responsibility for not just the lead keyboard parts, but also rhythm and bass perhaps as well. So that the product is aimed at live playing. It can also operate in a studio. In fact, you configure it and set it up in your studio, but it's aimed to take with you for live performances, and it provides all the facilities you need for top quality sounds for live playing. So we showed you earlier the Q-Ranger tracks that Helmut had put together. Q-Ranger, each track just looks like a standard MIDI track. We separate that into looped sections. You can have 32 looped sections or slots. that you can name the slot anything you want. In this style, we've called them Intro A1, Intro A2, Variation A1, Variation A2, and it's just done using an extended MIDI with markers format. So we mark the region, and the region in effect defines all the tracks in that region. Here we've got about 8 tracks defined, and it defines all of those tracks, including the audio that's been loaded. So it looks sequential, but we have a loop manager that tells it which regions are looped within the style. And then we also have a manager which says whether you transpose in real time or not. Obviously you don't want to transpose your rhythm tracks, but you do want to transpose a single bass line, and you also want to transpose chords within other MIDI tracks. We have a jog wheel support, so that if you want to change the tempo on the fly, you just alter that through a jog wheel on your controller. So that's mapped to tempo, mapped to MIDI tempo, and performers can change that in real time as they want while they're playing. Now, although we've shown styles here, I'm aware in the American market some people don't like styles, and we're not trying to say that you have to use this as a style player. You can define arpeggios, you can define sweeps using MIDI control information. So you can sweep, say, the OpX2 filter parameters and cutoff parameters, and you can modulate that in real time along with the beat, with the tempo that you're playing. So the question I just had is how do we get audio tracks into the style manager, which is QRanger? And the answer is that the audio tracks are in standard WAV format. They're just WAV files. There is a WAV editor supplied as standard within the Groove XR, but you can also prepare your WAV samples on a PC. You can download them over an Ethernet link, or you can download them through a USB drive or from a USB pen drive. So when you're performing live, what you would typically do, you would select on the front panel the QRanger style that you're about to play, maybe Boogie Woogie or something like that. And then when you're ready to start playing, you hit Intro 1, the Boogie Woogie intro starts playing, and that will come to an end because the intro is defined as a one-shot. Then what it will do is to move automatically into Variation 1, and you start playing your accompaniment over the top of that. When you want a fill, you hit the fill button, and it plays a single loop of the fill. If you hit the button twice, it goes into loop mode and keeps playing the fill again and again. Press the button again and the loop mode stops. We're publishing a set of videos to show users how to create their own styles. It's no more difficult than importing a MIDI file and defining the regions that you want looped in a style. Helmut typically produces a style complete from start to end with all the variations, fills, everything else he needs. He takes about 5 minutes to create a new style, and our video will feature Helmut producing the styles. It's very easy to follow him. The QRanger format is standard MIDI, but with the addition to have audio tracks added. So in fact the file format saved by QRanger is called a QTZ. The QTZ format is a compressed format which inside the file it has both MIDI and real audio in that format. That is proprietary, but as I say, we can export again as MIDI with markers, and we can export the audio again from it. The message I want to give is that everything we've produced is open. All of the file formats, all of the editing capabilities are open to the user. You can create your own format, your own styles, your own sounds, import them into our system. There is nothing locked to prevent you extending the system yourself, and commercial developers are welcome to develop additional styles and sounds and fit them to our system. We welcome it. The editor for people to do all of this is included as standard. QRanger has its own editor built in. The Linux sampler format has a Q sampler front end for assigning samples to multi-samples and editing the samples themselves. Everything you want to do is in the box. You don't need additional software, but you can use software on a PC or a Mac if you prefer to.